Hey, welcome to Vance Tried It. Today, we're going to be cooking a slow cooker pulled pork using pork loin. Now, I know this is not something maybe you have ever used for pulled pork. I will usually use like a butt or maybe even a loin roast, which is going to have some more fat in it and going to break down a little bit easier. But I've been seeing a lot of recipes that use this. I think the reason people are going with the pork loin is because it's just a leaner cut of meat. Pork is already leaner than like beef typically will be, but the loin is an especially lean cut of meat. So we're going to see how it works in the slow cooker, and then we're going to shred it up and see how it tastes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put one of these liners in our slow cooker. Now these are wonderful creation, and if you have never used one of these, the first trick is opening it up, and then you just put it in here. Now, your slow cooker is not going to come out spotlessly clean. It's not like you can just take this out when it's done cooking and let it cool off and put it up, because it's going to be still a little bit dirty. You're going to get a little bit of humidity down in between the actual crock and the liner. But it is going to make the cleanup way easier. It's going to make it super simple to clean it up. Just put a little soap water in there, rub it down with your cloth. You don't have to do a lot of scrubbing. So it's going to make it way easier to clean. So I highly recommend these liners. I will put a link down in the description where you can pick some of these up on Amazon if you want them just delivered straight to your house. So the first thing we're going to address here is, should you or should you not brown your meat before you put it into the slow cooker? And the answer is definitely maybe. So here's the deal with browning your meat before you put it in the slow cooker or even in the oven. It is going to change the profile a little bit, because when you brown this meat, it's going to caramelize it a little bit. And so that's going to add a little bit of flavor. And then it is also going to speed up the cooking process. So it's not going to have to cook for quite as long if you brown it. But the drawback is you're adding another step, you're dirtying another pan. Do you really want to do that? Well, maybe. Look, if you're making something and you really want to impress somebody, then go that extra step. It will add some extra flavor. Or if for some reason you need to cook your food without a lot of spices and herbs to add that extra flavor to it, then definitely brown your meat so you can use that to add a little flavor to it. But for the most part, I'm usually not going to brown the meat because I don't think it adds enough extra flavor for me to go through that extra step, especially because I'm going to be adding spices and herbs that are going to give it the flavor I'm looking for already. So we're not going to brown it. We're just going to put it in the slow cooker. You know, some people ask me about the prep I do here, and is it just for the videos? And the answer is sort of. It certainly makes the videos easier, but here's what I found, is it also just makes life easier if you do all the prep, get all the ingredients set up, ready to go before you start cooking, even if you're not filming. Like a lot of you maybe won't be filming your cooking. And so, for instance, when I open this package of pork loins here into this pan, there's juice in the bottom of this pan because there's juice in that package. You know, I find that with pretty much everything I open, whether it's a package of chicken or steak or whatever it is, there's often some juice in the bottom of that pan. And so I will put it in a pan to open it. I will put it on some sort of a baking dish, something that will catch that liquid where I don't have it spilling all over the countertop and then have to clean that up. This just makes it easier. And then when you get to the ingredients that you're going to be putting in here, like this and this, if you go ahead and measure them out in advance, then you can measure them out, go back through your recipe if you're using a recipe, and make sure, okay, do I have this. That way you're not leaving anything out, and you get to the end, or you get it halfway cooked, and you go, oh my goodness, I forgot to put in the whatever it was. So we're just going to put in our extra ingredients right now. So in here, I have a couple tablespoons of olive oil. I have a 1/4 cup of soy sauce and a 1/4 cup of just plain yellow mustard. And we're just going to spread that out in there a little bit. And then in here, I have a 1/2 teaspoon of mint leaves. I have some salt and some pepper. I didn't measure the salt and pepper. I just used my grinder and ground it up till I thought it looked like about the right amount. So it is probably 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. If I was going to measure it out, that'd be my guess. And so here's something I learned from a man named Justin Wilson. I don't know if you know who Justin Wilson is, but I grew up in, I would say even I had the privilege of growing up in a time before cable TV and internet, and I grew up mostly in the country. So we were lucky if we had 3 channels to watch on TV. That was ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS, the public broadcasting system. And so on Saturdays, after the cartoons were over when I was a kid, I would turn it over to PBS. And there we would have the old British comedies like Upstairs, Downstairs, and The Vicar. And they would have shows like This Old House. And they would also have cooking shows. And I always loved to watch The Frugal Gourmet. And I loved to watch Justin Wilson. He was an American humorist and a Cajun cook. And he had a show on for literally decades on PBS. And one of the things that he got started doing, especially later in his life, is if a recipe called for bay leaves, he substituted a 1/4 teaspoon of mint for every bay leaf. Why? Because bay leaves are a pain in the rear end, right? You've cooked with them, and then what do you have to do when the meal's done? You have to take out the bay leaves. But what can happen? A, you forget you put bay leaves in there, and then all of a sudden somebody gets a big spoonful of whatever it is, and there's a big bay leaf in their bowl. Or, if you don't forget, you still have to go fishing for it and find it, and you got to remember, did I put 2 or 3 bay leaves in here? Well, this makes it easy. It's going to give you a very similar flavor profile, but you're not going to have to worry about trying to fish it out when it's all done. So I have, like I said, a 1/2 teaspoon of mint, and then some salt and some pepper, and we're just going to spread all this out over our pork loin. And I don't think I said, but this is just a little bit over 2 pounds of pork loin. And then our final ingredient is going to be a good dark beer. This is Modelo Negra, and it is a dark beer. You can use any beer to put in here, but I recommend a darker beer for this recipe to get the right flavor profile. Now, some of you might go, oh, look, I don't do alcohol. Okay, that's fine. So here's the deal with cooking with any sort of alcohol, whether it's wine or beer or even whiskey. Most of that alcohol is going to cook off as we're cooking this meal. Look, we're going to be cooking this for 6 hours. There won't be hardly any alcohol left in here at all. But some of you still may be sensitive. Maybe you just don't do alcohol at all. Maybe there's a religious reason. Or maybe you've had issues with alcohol in the past and you just don't want that temptation. Look, don't worry about it. You are still going to need this liquid in here. So, use a couple cups of, you can use stock, vegetable stock, beef stock, chicken stock. If you can find pork stock, use that because we're cooking pork. Or, look, you could be really adventurous, and instead of beer, you could open up like a Dr. Pepper or a Coke and put that in there. It's going to give you the liquid, but you're also not going to use really water, because water is not going to add any flavor. And what do we like here? We like flavor, flavor, flavor. So we're going to use something with flavor. I'm using this dark beer, but you can use something else. Just make sure that it's something that has some flavor, approximately 2 cups worth of it. We're going to put it in here. We're going to just set this down to low. Where's low? Low's over here. So I have a couple different crock pots, and they're set up different. So I don't know if you noticed this, but most crock pots are set up just like this one, where you have off, low, high, warm. But I have another crock pot that I sometimes use, and it has warm, low, high, in that order. So I always like to look and make sure I'm putting it on the setting I want. And also, I've done this before. Hey, make sure, double check, your crock pot is actually plugged in. Because I've set this up before and then come back an hour later and like, oh my goodness, I didn't plug that in. So make sure it's plugged in. Put it at the right temperature. And we are going to cover this up. We are not going to take this lid off. Look, I cannot say that strongly enough. Whatever happens, do not take this lid off for 6 hours. We want to trap all of that heat in there. Whenever you take it off, you're letting the heat escape. You're stopping the meat from cooking like it should. Whatever happens, I know you think you want to smell it, you want to check it. You don't need to. That's the whole point of cooking in a slow cooker. Put the lid on, let it go. And we're going to come back after 6 hours. What we're going to do is we're going to take the meat out, we're going to shred it, we're going to put it baste in and let that baste in that sauce for about another half hour. And then we're going to give it a taste. So I'll see you in 6 hours. Okay, so we're back, and it's been right at 6 hours that this pork loin has been in our slow cooker. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the pork loin out, we're going to shred it, we're going to put it back in there, let it marinate in those juices for about half an hour. But let's take this out. Oh, I can tell it is super tender, ready to just fall apart. So what I have here are some meat forks, and these are specifically designed just for this. You can see how easily it just shreds that meat right up. And it makes way faster work of this than if you're using a fork. And so I'm going to put a link down in the description that if you want some of these, you can go ahead and order them right off of that link down there. And that would be wonderful. I do get just a little bit of a commission off of anything you buy like that. But here's the thing. While you're down there, would you please go ahead and subscribe and like and comment this video? Because the more you interact with the video, the more people get to see it, and the more videos and the better videos we make. So that was super simple to shred up using those claws right there. We're just going to put this all right back in here. Not even going to taste it yet. I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to do it. So we got the meat back in there and all that juice. I'm just going to make sure it gets really well incorporated all throughout here. Oh, this smells amazingly delicious. I can tell you that right now. And we are going to wait and try to ignore the wonderful aroma coming out of this crock pot for the next 20 minutes, half an hour. Let that really marinate in there. And I will see you in, I said half an hour, but I think maybe 20 minutes is all I'm going to be able to make it. So we'll just see. All right, we'll see you when we're ready to taste it. Okay, so I made it almost a full 30 minutes letting this marinade in this juice. But now, what we're going to do, let me get a fork out here. Goodness gracious. There we go. Let's see what this is like. Right here. Give you a little peek of it right there. Look at that. But, really, what we want to know is how does it taste? I mean, that meat is so tender and juicy. You get that just little undertone of mint. And really, here's the thing. If you don't know there's mint in here, you will taste it and you probably won't be sure of what it is because it's just so subtle. If you just put a little bit of mint in there, sure, that bay leaf. And that beer in there kind of gives it that kind of hops flavor. And it all just comes together so well. You could easily throw this on a bun and eat it. You could put out some King's Hawaiian rolls and eat it as sliders. You could even make some nachos with this on top. But however you want to eat it, look, here's the deal. I tried it. And you should too.